Hi, I'm Holliday, and this is Chloroform and Chillz. I'm on my boneless couch. I am in my pajamas. I upload every other Friday, but I'm working on something where I upload every week, but one week it will be something that's organized, script and everything. And then the other week where I don't upload, it would be a yap sesh. And if you have been here for a really long time, you know that my yap sessions are usually me just yapping about long podcasts I have listened to, a documentary, or just a random case that's going on in the world. And I only list a few bullet points and I go off each bullet point. I want to make those like a permanent thing now. So they'll be happening on my off week and I will be vulnerable. I have untreated ADHD as an adult. I feel like my yap sessions could really bring people into my world to see how I interpreted the information that was given to me through a documentary or a podcast or anything, or what really caught my eyes, because my brain is running a mile a minute. Trying to bring more content. Like me having ADHD, that's a big reason why a lot of my episodes are 15 to 30 minutes and no longer. So I'm trying to make more content, longer content. It just takes me a long time to really organize myself, to get a script together and everything. But I think I got it down. So I hope you guys really enjoy the more content I'm going to now be pushing. So yeah, I should be here every week now. Also, I see that we have 162 subscribers. It's so many of you guys here. Hi, my little maniacs. How are you? Yes, if you follow true crime, I think you are a maniac because you must be preparing for the perfect murder, right? And also, I'm happy you guys are here. I remember when we were only like 52 people here. Please tell me how you're doing. I know the world is shitting the bed right now. And I think everybody should have somebody to talk to. So if you ever want to vent, hop in my DMs. I'll listen. I don't care. I don't care. I'll just listen. Hopefully I'm an unbiased person for you to vent to. So, I always want everybody's mental health to be right. I have not been here for the last 3 weeks or so. It's because my little sister was graduating. She graduated college with a degree in biology, a woman in STEM. We love to see it. And I had to go get my hair retwisted, my eyebrows done. Well, they growing out now, but my eyebrows done, my feet done. I didn't get my nails done because technically that's something else I wanted to talk about. This case we're doing today, which is the Freeway Phantom, I was supposed to build a Lego set, but the setup I have for that just doesn't work for it. So from now on, until I am able to buy a new table, a new chair, I am just going to show you sets that I built for the week or whatever happens right now, and still come on here and talk to y'all. And y'all can see my beautiful face, hear my beautiful voice, and see what happens. But soon, once I am able to get a new table, a new chair that is suitable for building Legos, I will be building and telling true crime again. I really want Lego to be a big part of what I do here because it's something that's therapeutic for me, which is listening to a case and building Legos. I do have a set that I did build this week and I want to show you guys. This right here is the set that I built this week, and it is the AT-AT Storm Trooper helmet. It was a really nice build. This is the set for the week. I will be uploading that to Instagram, and today's case is the Freeway Phantom Case. Yes, the case that I have been saying that I was going to do forever. It's finally here. And all the pictures and also the Lego set that I built will be uploaded to my Facebook page and my Instagram group for any of our only audio listeners. Even if you are on YouTube, you can go to my Instagram and follow and like it or whatever, but I just want there to be a place for audio listeners to see the picture so they can follow along with the case. I think today is going to be a long one, so here we go. We're in Washington, D.C. in the 1970s, 1971 to be exact. In the southeast area of Washington, D.C., a single mother by the name of Allentine Van Thomas Reeves had to go outside and run a few errands, but she had her children. Her children, she told them to stay in the house and do not open the door, even if it was Jesus himself at the door. Okay. During my research, I found out that Miss Reeves was actually a very strict mother, but she's also a loving mother, a caring mother. She was strict to protect her children. So from hearing not to open the door unless Jesus was at the door, her children knew never to touch the door. But on this date, April 25th, 1971, a knock came at the door. All of the children inside of the apartment looked at each other to see who was going to open the door. And one child did end up opening the door, and her name is Carol Ann. Carol Ann went to the door and she cracked it a little bit to see who it was, and it was their older sister Valerie, who lived across the way. The older sister Valerie needed somebody to run to the 7-Eleven that was only down the street and pick up a few things. I think I call her Carol Ann. I think her name is Caroline. Caroline inside the apartment told Valerie, Mama said that we can't open the door and we can't go anywhere. Valerie started to go back and forth with Caroline, and that's when Carol, because Caroline is actually a twin, Carol stepped up, saw that her sisters were arguing, going back and forth. She didn't want them to fight, so Carol said, I will go to the store. It's not that far away. I'll be really quick. Mama won't know. I will say, as an older sister myself, I think Valerie knows how their mother is and that she's strict. Not blaming anybody, I think Valerie should have just went to the store herself. That's just me. Also, this is the 1970s, so she probably thinks it's pretty safe. I was born in 1995. I grew up at the end of the 90s because some people be weird about it. I grew up at the end of the 90s into the 2000s, so during that time, it felt like it was safe when we went to the store by ourselves. So I'm pretty sure they're assuming it's not that far. It's safe. She'll be all right. 13-year-old Carol Denise Spinks leaves out of the apartment to run to the 7-Eleven for her sister Valerie, and sadly Carol will never return home. Before knowing that Carol was missing, Carolyn realized that a lot of time was going by and she started to realize that Carol wasn't back yet. So Carolyn decided, I'm gonna run across the hallway to see if my sister got back yet. So Carolyn runs across the hallway to Valerie's apartment. She asks Valerie, hey, have you seen Carol? Has she gotten back yet? Valerie says, no, I'm still waiting. Carolyn decides, all right, this is weird. I need to go see if I can find Carol outside at the store. So Carolyn decides to run to the 7-Eleven. She looks on her path there. She goes to the store. She's told that Carol did make it to the store. But then after that, Carol was just missing. Once Carolyn is back from the 7-Eleven, she gets this deep sinking feeling in her stomach that something is really wrong here. Carolyn waits for her mother to come home and she tells her, Mom, Carol's missing. Mrs. Reeves decides to call the police, and you know what the police say? The police say that Carol probably ran away. That hurts Mrs. Reeve to hear that, and she decides, since you guys aren't going to help me, I'm going to create my own search party to look for my daughter. Just to let you know, Mrs. Reeves is black. Carolyn is black. Valerie is black. Carol, who is missing right now, is black. This is a black family in D.C. in the 70s. Mrs. Reeves creates a search party. She calls all her friends and family to see if anybody has seen Carol in the street. Everybody just keeps searching, but Carol is never found. 6 days later, Carol's body will be found behind a hospital called St. Elizabeth's Hospital, right off of 295 near the Suitland Parkway. From the coroner's report, Carol was sexually assaulted and strangled. The coroner also was able to find some evidence that it was possibly a black male due to finding black male hairs on Carol's body, and found some weird green fibers on her as well. But also, there was some odd too. When investigators arrived at the scene after being notified about Carol's body being found, there was something odd. Two things were odd. Carol was missing her shoes, and after the coroner did his report, they found food in Carol's stomach. This made investigators think a little bit, but didn't make them think too far because they didn't really go that deep into the investigation. They just thought that Carol was unfortunately a victim of somebody kidnapping, hurting her, and then possibly keeping her shoes as trophies. Let's talk about it. What is a trophy in a criminal investigation? I'm going to read it off my notes. Trophies are items taken from victims to act as mementos, allowing the killer to relive live the thrill, control, and fantasy of the crime. Homicide investigators had to relay this devastating news to Mrs. Reeves that Carol was deceased and she was murdered. During this time of notifying Mrs. Reeves, police asked her, "When was the last time you saw Carol?" Mrs. Reeves told investigators that she went out to run some errands and she went to go visit her sister who doesn't live too far away. And while she was visiting her sister, she was shocked to see Carol walking to the store, actually out walking. So Mrs. Reeves confronted her daughter and said, "Where are you going?" Carol told her mother that she was just going to the store for Valerie really quick, and her mother told her, "You better hurry up and get home as fast as possible." And that was the last time she saw Carol. I personally think somebody saw this interaction with Carol and Mrs. Reeves. I believe they took advantage of Carol being scolded by her mother a little bit because, again, Mrs. Reeves is a strict mother. She told them, "Don't even answer the door if it's Jesus." They answered the door for their sister Valerie. And then on top of that, Valerie is able to get one of the girls to run to the store to do a little shopping for her. So I believe somebody saw this interaction between Carol and Mrs. Reeves, and probably when Carol was leaving the store, they probably drove up to Carol and said, "Hey, your mom sent me to come and get you." And Carol probably was a little wary, but probably trusted this guy. It probably was somebody in the neighborhood, and she decided to go with them. And this person also probably told Carol that, "Yeah, I'm gonna take you back to your mom, but I have to run my own errands first." But sadly, that wouldn't happen. Carol would end up lifeless on the highway of 295, but Carol wouldn't be the only victim. She's one of 5 more victims that will be murdered by this man called the Freeway Phantom. The Freeway Phantom operated between 1971 and 1972 during the anti-war protests that were going on in Washington, D.C. These protests were to protest the Vietnam War that was going on. Due to these protests, it took a lot of attention actually away from Carol's murder to be investigated. Due to these protests in the Vietnam War, it led to Carol's case going cold. After the murder of Carol, 3 months later, another young black girl will be abducted and murdered. Darlenia Denise Johnson. She was 16 years old. Darlenia is actually from the neighborhood that Carol lives in. On July 8th at 10:30 a.m., Darlenia walked out of her house, never to be seen again. The day Darlenia walked out of her home, she was on her way actually to work. She was able to get a job during the summer working at a recreational center with youth. She was working at Oxon Hill Rec Center. Darlenia didn't make it to work, and since she didn't come home, Darlenia's mother Helen decided to file a missing persons report, and Helen decided to go and search for her daughter herself. Just like Carol's mother, Mrs. Reeves, Helen didn't receive any help looking for her daughter. She was told that she was a runaway too. During the search for Darlenia, Darlenia wasn't found, and something scary started to happen. Darlenia's mother, Helen, started to get creepy phone calls to her house about her own daughter. For 2 weeks straight, she got phone calls to her house, and it was of a man breathing heavily. Then finally, the last call was the scariest. A man called Helen's house. He only said 4 words into the phone and hung up. He said, "I killed your daughter." He would never call back again, and these calls were not able to be traced by police due to technology in the 1970s. On July 18th, Darlenia's body was found on the highway of 295 by an officer. Darlenia's body was left out in the hot July weather. Darlenia's body was badly decomposed. We all know what the heat can do to a body. It speeds up decomposition. Darlenia's body was so badly decomposed that her mother had to identify her through clothing. What's crazy is that police were actually notified about Darlenia's remains being on 295 earlier. Yeah, you heard me. They were already notified about it. And allegedly by the logs and what I've researched, police rode by 295 and they kept saying they didn't see a body. But they kept getting calls from somebody saying that there's a body on 295 and somebody needs to go look. And they believe that this caller was the killer because When they finally did find Darlene's body, her body wasn't really that close to 295. Like it was off on 295, but it was still hitting at the same time. So if you really wanted to see it, you had to go look for it a little bit. From hearing that they found Darlenia's body more so off of 295 where you can't see it right off of the highway, it seems like the Freeway Phantom is getting old, right? First he's calling Darlenia's mother Helen, and now he's calling to police to report a body. It sounds like he wants attention from the police and probably also from the media. Right from the start of finding Darlenia's body, when investigators arrived to the scene of where Darlenia's body was placed, they immediately assumed that Darlenia was murdered. Darlenia was found 15 feet away from where Carol's body was found. Darlenia was fully dressed, but she was missing her shoes, just like Carol. From seeing this, investigators are assuming at this point that Darlenia was sexually assaulted and strangled. The coroner that examined Darlenia's body, he could not find the cause of death, but there were signs. There were some signs of strangulation. There were some signs of sexual assault. The coroner did find, though, black male hairs and also found blood under Darlenia's fingernails. But police were not putting two and two cases together. What are the odds that two very young black girls are dumped on 295 and missing their shoes, strangled and sexually assaulted? Not that far apart. Between Carol's murder and Darlenia's murder, it's only 3 months. July 27, 1971, a young girl by the name of Brenda Faye Crockett, who is 10 years old, is outside playing with her siblings. Her mother, Rutha, needs her to run to the store and get dog food for the dogs. And she also tells Brenda, take one of your siblings with you. Brenda decides not to take one of her siblings. She just runs to the store really quick so she can get back faster. Brenda went to the store for her mother, but Brenda would never return. Just like Carol's family, Brenda's family started to get that sinking feeling that something isn't right. The family decided to go out and search for Brenda, but they left some people behind at home just in case Brenda came back home. Brenda would not come back home, but Brenda did call the house. One of Brenda's siblings, who was home waiting for her, hears the phone ringing and she answers it. On the other side, her sibling hears Brenda's voice. Her sibling that picked up the phone is named Bertha. Bertha remembers the phone call going like this. Brenda is on the phone crying. Brenda says a white man picked me up and we're in Virginia. And then the call ends by Brenda saying bye. Some time passes and then there's another phone call and it's Brenda again. This time Brenda's stepfather, Theodore, answers the phone. Brenda said the same thing she said to Bertha. A white man picked me up and I'm in Virginia, but she ended the call a little differently. Brenda asks her stepfather, did my mother see me? Brenda's stepfather, Theodore, asks Brenda, where are you? Let me come and get you. What's going on? What are you talking about? So Theodore then tells Brenda, ask the man to come to the phone so I can speak with him. Theodore only hears heavy footsteps and then Brenda just says, I'll see you, and hangs up. Police are immediately called to investigate the abduction of Brenda. Investigators believe that the killer or kidnapper at the time was scoping out the scene. The investigators believed it's odd for Brenda to say that a white man has me and that she's in Virginia. It sounds like really a black man has her and she's in Washington still. Knowing what Brenda said, saying that a white man has me, I'm in Virginia, did my mother see me? It makes me wonder if the person that took Brenda was somebody in the neighborhood that everybody knew. At 5:50 a.m., a hitchhiker is on Highway 295 near the Baltimore and Washington Parkway. This hitchhiker spotted a body. It was the body of Brenda Faye Crockett. Brenda was found fully clothed without shoes. When Brenda's body was taken to the coroner said that Brenda was sexually assaulted and strangled. And they found black male hairs on her and some green fibers. The coroner knew Brenda was strangled because when Brenda's body was found, they found a scarf tied tightly around her neck. This is another time we are now seeing black male hairs, green fibers. fibers. It sounds close to Carol and Darlenia's case, and also Brenda's shoes are missing. With Brenda's body, they were able to find blood and semen. But it's 1971 and the technology is just not there for them to test the blood and semen to anything. CODIS isn't even around either. Brenda is number 3 of the 6 other young girls that are killed by the Freeway Phantom. With the murder of Brenda, police and the media start to realize that we have a problem on our hands and potentially we have a serial killer, and the killer is escalating. When it came to Carol being kidnapped, Carol wasn't found until 6 days later. When it came to Darlenia, her body wasn't found for I think a week. And now we're at Brenda, and Brenda was found hours later. So he's escalating. I will say, I do believe that Brenda's murder happened so quickly and her body was dumped so quickly is because I believe the killer thought he was spotted by Rutha, who was Brenda's mother. Because remember when Brenda said that weird line of, "Did my mother see me?" If the killer didn't see Rutha, would he have possibly kept Brenda longer? The next time the Freeway Phantom would strike, it would be in October 1971. I personally think the Freeway Phantom took a moment to pump the brakes because he thought the block was hot. I think Brenda's murder was a little too close to him being caught, so he had to chill out for a moment. Or in some cases, some killers stop because maybe they are now dating a woman. It's so weird. Some killers will randomly stop killing once they meet a woman or create a family. October 1st, 1971, Neomosha Yates is 12 years old and she ran to the store for her father. If you're noticing, all these young girls are running to the store, except Darlenia. Darlenia was going to work. But it's very much a crime of opportunity. You get what I'm saying? When you find a young girl by herself, so you just snatch her up. So again, Neomosha was 12 years old and she's going to the store for her father. She was only being sent to the Safeway that was only down the street from their house. Time started to pass and Neomosha would never come back home, sadly. Her father got the same sinking feeling everybody else's family got, and that was, where's my daughter? Where's my loved one? Where's my sister? Where? So he decided to go and search for his daughter, but he never was able to find her. The only thing he was able to find out is that Neomosha did make it to the store, but after leaving the store, nobody knows where she went. After not being able to find her, her father contacts her mother. Her mother in turn decides to call the police and report Neomosha missing. While the search for Neomosha continues to go on, within 3 hours of Neomosha's abduction, a hitchhiker finds Neomosha's body. Her body was found off of Pennsylvania Ave in Prince George County, Maryland. Neomosha was fully clothed and missing her shoes. From the coroner's report, Neomosha was strangled and sexually assaulted. On Neomosha's body, they found green fibers and black male hairs, just like the other girls who died before her. Neomosha is the 4th victim of the Freeway Phantom. On November 15th, 1972, Brenda Denise Woodward, 18 years old. She went to dinner with some friends after school. After dinner, she took the bus home. Her friend actually walked her to the bus stop and saw her board the city bus on the way back to Baltimore. And that was at 11:30 p.m. And this friend is, I will say, amazing, because this friend actually decides to call Brenda's apartment that Brenda is sharing with a roommate and see if she made it home. The roommate informs the friend that Brenda did not make it home, and that gives both the roommate and the friend a very big sinking feeling. The roommate ends up calling Brenda's mother. At night, the roommate informs Brenda's mother that Brenda is missing. We can't find her. Brenda's mother isn't too worried. She listens to the roommate, but she really brushes it off because Brenda's 18. She has her own apartment. Maybe in the middle of going home, she decided to go to somebody else's house. But the next day, Brenda's mother is en route to her appointment and she sees something in the middle of the road, and it's a wig, and it looks awfully like Brenda's. This now causes Brenda's mother to have a sinking feeling, and she just feels it in her gut. And she gets home from her apartment. She's pacing around the house, waiting for her husband to get home. Her husband gets home. She tells him what she feels is going on. She tells him what's going on. Her husband tries to assure her that nothing is going on, just try to brush it off. And also they talk about it and realize like the Freeway Phantom is only looking for young girls. He's not looking for 18-year-old. But Brenda actually looked younger than 18 years old because she was very short. So some breaking news hits and they find a body off of the Route 202. Hearing this news, Brenda's mother just feels like, it's my daughter. I know it's my daughter. Her husband is trying to calm her down and he even tells her, why don't we just call the police to see what they got? The police come by with a photo of the woman's body they found on 202. Brenda's mother's intuition was right. It was Brenda. Brenda had been stabbed multiple times and strangled. Brenda was also sexually assaulted. What was found on Brenda's body after taken to the coroner was black male hairs and green fibers. The Freeway Phantom changed his MO. Brenda also had her shoes on. And what the scene looked like for finding Brenda's body is she was fully clothed. She had her shoes on, and the Freeway Phantom covered her chest with a coat. And there was something in the coat pocket, which was a note. And this note said, this is tantamount to my insensitivity to people, especially women. I will admit the others when you catch me if you can. Freeway Phantom. This note was taken into evidence and examined thoroughly. They realized that this note was written by Brenda, and it was from a page ripped out of her notebook. Because remember, Brenda was coming home from dinner with friends after school. So they sent the note off to a specialist, and a specialist was able to determine that Brenda wrote this note and she wasn't fearful for her life. She wasn't in stress. It was very just fluid. Nothing from her writing could give an indicator that she was stressed. So this led investigators to believe that Brenda possibly knew her killer. After the murder of Brenda Denise Woodard, the Freeway Phantom takes a long break in killing. The Freeway Phantom doesn't strike again until 1972. In September of 1972, the Freeway Phantom kills his last victim, Diane Denise Williams, 17 years old, and she's visiting her boyfriend James. Diane needs to be home at a certain time. She has a curfew, so Diane decides to leave her boyfriend's home, but her boyfriend James does walk her to the bus stop. James walks Diane to the bus stop, sees her board the bus, and then watches the bus drive away with Diane inside of it. The time that Diane and James arrived at the bus stop, Diane would have ample amount of time to make it home. Sadly, Diane would never make it home. Diane's mother, Margaret, notices that the time is going by and Diane is not home yet. So Margaret decides to call James. She calls James. She says, Diane better know that she is in trouble if she is still at your house. James is confused at hearing this because he walked Diane to the bus stop a while ago. Diane should have been home by now. Margaret is hearing James saying that, no, I walked to the bus stop, but Margaret believes that James is just trying to cover for Diane. Margaret ends up waiting and waiting and waiting, and she starts to get this sinking feeling that Diane isn't coming home. She's starting to get that sinking feeling just like the last 5 families. That night, Margaret and her husband decide to file a missing persons report for Diane. In the morning at 8 a.m., a body was found off of I-295. Diane's body was found fully clothed. Her shoes were off, but oddly, they were laying right next to her body. Diane was strangled and possibly sexually assaulted. From the examination of Diane's body, they couldn't tell for sure if she was assaulted or not. Semen was found on Diane's body. But since Diane was with her boyfriend that night, they weren't sure because they couldn't test it against anything because they didn't have the technology. Sure, if Diane just had consensual sex with her boyfriend James. But when the investigators interviewed James, he was very clear and adamant that him and Diane did not have sex that night. While the investigation is going on, Margaret, Diane's mother, started to get weird phone calls to her house, just like Darlenia's mom, Helen. Margaret would get phone calls from a man saying, I killed your daughter. The community started freaking out over the death of Diane. The community at the time was just getting back to normalcy. Diane was murdered. They were going on almost about a year without any more murders, contributing to the Freeway Phantom. But now, here they are, gearing up for maybe another round of murders. With all of these murders happening, I'm pretty sure police had to have some suspects, right? They had about 3 suspects and a group of rapists. Yeah, like what's going on in DC? Homicide detective Romaine Jenkins, a Black American homicide detective in DC at the time, was supposed to investigate the murders of the girls. But during the time of the first murder, which was Carol's murder, Romaine was taken off of the case and she had to report to basically riot patrol, I guess you can say, because when Carol's murder happened, that was when the protests for the Vietnam War were happening. So that took a lot of resources away from other police divisions such as homicide. But once the protests started to calm down, Romaine Jenkins was able to get back on the case and help with these other murders. For this, a task force was created to catch the Freeway Phantom. From this task force, they were able to find 3 suspects and possibly a gang of rapists that possibly did all these murders of these young girls. The group of rapists were called the Green Vega Rapists. The Green Vega Rapists were all Black men in their 20s who hated women. This group was responsible for potentially 500 to 1,000 rapes in Washington, D.C. This group would abduct women and then rape them, release. They were all eventually caught and prosecuted. Once investigators started looking into them more, thinking they were responsible for the 6 women that were killed by the Freeway Phantom, one gang member actually came forward and said that he knew who did the murders. But this one gang member had one condition. He said, I will give you this information, but you cannot let it get out that I'm a snitch. The gang member was even able to give the investigators a solid alibi so he cannot be implicated in any of the rapes and murders. Investigators at the time probably were ecstatic and thought this was great, but these feelings were short-lived. During this time, while investigators are looking for the Freeway Phantom, it's election time in Maryland, and somebody campaigning to win the election was able to obtain that the police had possibly found the Freeway Phantom killer. This candidate expressed to the people that an inmate at a prison was going to give up this information. This terrified the gang member of the Green Vega Rapists, and he decided to recant his statements, and he decided, I have nothing more to say. Guys basically screwed me, so now I'm gonna screw you back by not giving any information. I personally don't think that the Green Vega rapists did it. They were raping women, not children. The next 2 suspects are 2 ex-cops that killed a 14-year-old girl, who are Edward Selman and Tommy Simmons. They killed a 14-year-old girl named Angela Denise Barnes, and they dumped her body right off of the highway. Since Angela was murdered during the Freeway Phantom rampage, or whatever you want to call it, his time, they assumed that Angela was a victim of the Freeway Phantom. But doing some more investigation, they found out that actually these 2 dirty cops were actually involved in her murder. Some evidence that they found with Angela just didn't add up to the other Freeway Phantom victims. Angela was shot. The other Freeway Phantom victims were sexually assaulted and strangled. Edward Selman and Tommy Simmons were later charged with Angela's murder. Their final suspect was Robert Askins. He seemed like he could be the Freeway Phantom. There is a lot of evidence that adds up to him possibly being it, but I don't think he was. Investigators are very strong with believing that Robert was the Freeway Phantom, but there are just some things that don't add up. Robert does have a history of being violent towards women. He has also history of abducting and raping women as well. But listen to what I said. I said women, not girls, with the age range of 10 and 17. I know you're probably thinking, but what about Brenda Denise Woodward? She was 18. Yes, she was 18, but she looked like she could have been younger than 18. And I think the Freeway Phantom got her mixed up for a younger girl. And I think he killed Brenda basically by accident. Robert's crimes of hurting women started when he was 19 years old. At the age of 19, Robert stabbed a sex worker at a brothel and then went back days later to poison 5 more of the sex workers in the brothel. Then he killed a 31-year-old woman by the name of Ruth McDonald. After that, he was caught and put in St. Elizabeth's psychiatric facility, and he only spent 4 years inside of that facility. St. Elizabeth's is right off of 295, and I know what you're thinking. It's really close to where all the other young girls were dumped. I will say it's odd, but I'm still not convinced. April 1952. After Robert spent his time at St. Elizabeth's psychiatric facility, right after he got out, 5 months later, he went and strangled a 42-year-old woman named Laura Cook to death. He was charged with her murder in 1954, and there were other assaults added on as well. Robert was convicted of her murder and other assaults. In 1958, Robert's conviction for the murder of Laura Cook was overturned, so he was released and a free man. I also forgot to mention that Robert is a computer technician, and at work, he would use the word tantamount a lot as well. If you remember the murder of Brenda Denise Woodward, in her pocket they found a note with the word tantamount in it. In 1977, Robert would have been 58 years old. In 1977, Robert was charged with the abduction of a 24-year-old woman. This was in his home in Washington, D.C. After being charged with the abduction and rape of this 24-year-old woman, that's when investigators decided to search Robert's home for any evidence linking him to be the Freeway Phantom. In this search, investigators found nothing. They did find documents in one of Robert's drawers in his home. These documents were from a court date, or one day he was at court and the judge used the word tantamount in it. Investigators didn't want to give up, so they ended up getting another search warrant because they wanted to search Robert's backyard. But again, they found nothing. And time would keep going by, and Robert Askins would end up dying at the age of 91 at a federal correction institute in Cumberland, Maryland on April 30th, 2010. He was never charged or fully connected to the Freeway Phantom murders. Still to this day, investigators believe that Robert Askins was the Freeway Phantom or connected to him in some way. But one investigator doesn't believe that Robert was responsible for any of these murders, and that's Romaine Jenkins. And I agree with her. Robert Askins went after women, not young girls. And the victim profile for the Freeway Phantom had all young girls and only one girl that was technically an adult at 18, but she looked younger, so I think he was just very confused. I do understand where people think Robert is their guy or the Freeway Phantom because, yes, he did hate women, he did attack women, did murder women, he did rape and abduct women. But again, women, not young girls. And I do understand that he used the word tantamount. He also was a black male as well. But when investigators were searching Robert's house, did they find any green fibers? Remember, the other thing that was linking all of these murders of these young girls together was green fiber. So did you find any of those in his backyard? Did you find any of those in his car? Did you find any of those in his house? Also, what about the girls' shoes? Only 2 girls, I believe, had their shoes, but everybody else didn't. They were missing. They were fully clothed, no shoes. Like, that doesn't make, like, do y'all think about that? That's a big part of the evidence because people are assuming that those shoes were trophies for the killer. So that means that somewhere in Robert's house, he has to have these shoes if he is the Freeway Phantom. But again, investigators found nothing. I truly believe that the Freeway Phantom could have been caught. I believe that the Freeway Phantom was definitely somebody in a neighborhood that everybody knew. And he probably would jump from neighborhood to neighborhood, to be honest. He was definitely a wolf in sheep's clothing. I grew up in Germantown in Philadelphia. My mother and all my aunts grew up in Germantown as well. I can remember till this day on Penn Street in Germantown, everybody knew my mother and my aunts. Everybody in Germantown or in that one area, Penn Street near Germantown Hospital. And people would walk up to me and my cousins when we were little and say like, oh, I know your mom. I know your grandmother in Germantown. And they always would come up to us saying like, oh, we're watching you. We're making sure y'all are safe. And no shade, I understand it takes a village to raise your children. But my young brain at the time probably thought, oh, this person knows my mom, knows my grandmother, knows my aunts. I can trust them. Thank God nothing happened to me as a child. But hold on, let's Let's take out the 18 and 17-year-old that were victims of the Freeway Phantom, but just think about the really young ones, the 10, the 13-year-old, the 14-year-old. Just think about it. If somebody came up to them saying like, I know your mom, I know your dad. In Carol's situation, she was the first victim. She was 13 and she was scolded by her mother basically outside. He probably saw that and said, I know your mom want me to come and get you from the store. Think about that. It was somebody probably in the neighborhood. Seriously, this guy probably could have been the neighborhood handyman. In Germantown, when I was little, we had a neighborhood handyman and we had a neighborhood mechanic. And I used to see them over my grandmother's house. I used to see them interact with my mom and my aunts. Who was to say that these neighborhood handymans, these neighborhood mechanics wouldn't lure a child away? All those people are suspects when it comes down to a child abduction. And I'm pretty sure nobody was thinking at the time in these neighborhoods like, oh yeah, such and such saw her last. They probably really blocked it out because they think that, oh, this person won't hurt my kids because they know me. But usually the person that hurt you or somebody close to you is not too far away. They are usually a family member or a friend. Also, I want to get on the police at the time in Washington, D.C. Why didn't they put a curfew out? After 3 girls were murdered, why didn't we put a curfew out? Why didn't you do a bulletin? Why didn't you, it's so much you could have did. Like, why weren't we having boots on the ground immediately? But I'm pretty sure we know why something didn't happen, and it's basically racism. The police at the time in 1970s probably really thought these girls just ran away, and that was it. And I don't really need to put any effort into it. And I feel like that is the case because when it was reported that a body was found on I-295, it took about a week or 2 for police to get out there. And I'm pretty sure the caller said that the body was of a black young woman or something. I'm pretty sure of it. And police probably didn't care enough to even get out the car to look. So at the end of the day, the Freeway Phantom is still out there, most likely because of racism. This killer definitely just skipped away. And it's sad. 6 unsolved murders connected to one killer is still ongoing. And if you have any information, please reach out to the FBI about the Freeway Phantom. I think he's dead already. We can hope. We can hope that somebody has some hidden information about something. That is our case. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Now it's time for our missing person of the week. Our missing person of the week is a child from Philadelphia. A young girl by the name of Olive Kennedy. She's 13 years old. She was last seen Sunday, May 9th, 2026. She was last seen at the 20th block of Anchor Street. Olive is described as 5'5", approximately 157 pounds, brown hair and brown eyes. I want to make a correction because her name is probably Olivia, so Olive or Olivia Kennedy is missing and we need to get out here and really try to find her. She's a Philly native. Let's get boots on the ground and try to find Olivia or Olive. So that is our missing person of the week. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all later. Bye.